Hey there, and welcome to the Herbal Moon Goddess podcast. My name's Kyra, and today I'm going to be sharing with you something that I feel every 28, 29, even 30-year-old should know about. Because this information I'm going to share with you today is something that I wish I knew about a few years ago when I was 29, because it makes so much sense now that I know about this, and it would have helped me so much more back then if I knew that this was happening. So what exactly I'm talking about is your first Saturn return. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering exactly what is a Saturn return, how to deal with your first Saturn return, as well as sharing my personal experiences with my first Saturn return a few years ago, and what your next steps are if this is something that you're going through right now and you're really feeling this energy. I'll be showing you how to go through to the next step. So Saturn returns. What the hell is a Saturn return? So when I'm talking about returns, and this is actually something that I cover quite in depth in my astrology forecasting course in the Herbal Moon Goddess Academy, a return is when a planet, it could be any planet, it returns back to that position, that exact degree and sign that it was in when you were born. So for example, we have our solar return pretty much every year on our birthday, when the sun gets back to that exact degree that it was when you were born. So a Saturn return, Saturn takes about 29 years to completely go around the astrology wheel to go through all 12 zodiac signs. So around every 29 years, we have a Saturn return. So yes, you'll have your first Saturn return at around age 29. You will probably feel the effects of this probably from the ages of 28 through to 30, or possibly even a little bit longer, depending on like retrogrades and whatever. And then of course, we'll go through another Saturn return 29 years later around the age of 58. And then if you live long enough, you may even see your third Saturn return at the age of 87. So a Saturn return, what that really means. So Saturn is the planet of challenge, responsibility, maturity. It's all about like where we are controlling and strict and perhaps self-disciplined. Saturn is the planet of hard work, really like putting in that hard work to get the rewards later. So really what happens when we're going through our Saturn return, it's like this maturation. We kind of transition from our youthful 20 years into the more like adulthood of our 30s and beyond. So what happens when that Saturn return happens? It's really igniting that Saturn energy on your chart. So depending on what sign, what zodiac sign Saturn is in on your natal chart, that will really explain a bit more in depth about where you're going to be feeling these challenges, or this sort of energy of these challenges in your life that will come up through your Saturn return. But basically, Saturn returns are always like this transition from, I guess, the younger self into the older and more wiser self. Saturn is like a really great teacher planet. It teaches us these life lessons. So often when we go through these Saturn returns, it is a time of really learning those hard life lessons, but these life lessons will serve us well into the future. So pretty much what happens is it can be a really challenging time when you go through your Saturn return, and it can really bring up questions like, what do I want to do with my life? It can be a time when you feel really confused about what it is that you're doing. You may If you didn't like study or go to university or something after high school, or through your 20s, often when you get to this age, you may start thinking about your future and your career, and this is the time when you may decide like, oh, maybe this is what I want to do with my life, and you'll get serious about that. So like I said, it's this maturation where you're getting older and you're recognizing that in your life, and you're like, okay, well, what do I need to do now to set myself up for the future? So if you're going through your Saturn return right now, so if you're about age 28 to 30, if you were born from about 1991 to about 1993, then you're going through your Saturn return right now. So that would mean that your Saturn is in Aquarius at the time of recording, at the end of 2021. Saturn's pretty much in the middle of Aquarius, and will be in Aquarius till I think about 2023. So this is a time when you are going through your Saturn return. You're feeling these effects of Saturn, however that shows up on your chart, on a really deep level. And it's probably bringing up all that stuff I've just talked about, like that transition from your youthful 20s to the more maturity of being at 30 and older. But more specifically, because your Saturn return is happening in Aquarius, again, if you're born between 91 to 93, it's really, that Saturn in Aquarius energy can bring up like unexpected challenges, unusual challenges. You may feel like, really maturing in a different way, setting yourself like differently than the status quo, like really maturing in an unusual way that makes you unique. And I feel like for you guys with Saturn in Aquarius, it can be a really challenging time because you may feel like you have to fit into a certain mold in society, in your community, or in the world. But really deep inside, you know that that's not the path for you. You know that you have some alternative way to live and to show up in the world. And you really want to challenge yourself to be different. It's like you really want to dare to be different. So if that's you and you're going through your Saturn return now in Aquarius, I really want you to think about how can you be true to yourself without worrying about what the rest of the world would think about you. How can you be unique, even if it's a bit quirky or unusual? How can you embrace that part of yourself as you mature into the next level of yourself? So I'm going to talk now a bit about what I experienced in my Saturn return. So I'm 32 right now, and pretty much what happened. If you don't, I've kind of shared this story before, I think on the podcast and other areas, but pretty much what happened, why I started Herbal Moon Goddess, my business, is because I went through my Saturn return. At the time, I think about maybe 2 years before my Saturn return, I started studying Western herbal medicine. And so I'd graduated and I'd started practicing when I was 28, 29. And I really loved herbal medicine, and well, I still do. I use herbs every day still. But like I was very like clinical about it, because that's what they teach you when you go to college to be like a naturopath or a herbalist or a nutritionist. It's very clinical, very it kind of lacks that grassroots traditionalism. And so, I followed that clinical path, and I practice locally. I had my clinic room here in Tamworth where I was practicing herbal medicine as a herbalist. And it was really fulfilling for a while, but then as I started to move through this Saturn return energy, I couldn't shake this feeling like, what am I doing with my life? Something felt really unaligned with me. And I pretty much went through a spiritual awakening. And that's what led me from transitioning to this like clinical herbalism to pretty much what I'm doing now, this more spiritual stuff. I practiced my herbal medicine from a massage center, and they had this beautiful front room in their clinic where I could hold workshops. And so I started these full moon circles with a friend, and that really ignited something in me, in my soul. And I kind of had this moment where I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be sitting in a clinic wearing like a business sort of like, outfit and like having to do like all this clinical stuff that just felt so clinical. Like it just didn't feel free and authentic. Like I kind of felt like I had to put on this mask when I went to work as a herbalist. But when I did these full moon circles, I could really go into the depths of my soul, and I could help other people do that same thing. And so I found a lot more meaning through that work that I was doing, which ultimately led to the work I'm doing now, like tarot reading and astrology, and helping other people to awaken their intuition and that inner wisdom. So that's pretty much what I experienced through my Saturn return. It was, for me, a spiritual awakening where I transitioned from like, what I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I found my way to, I guess, becoming a wise woman. Like I've had this like stereotypical image in my head of being this like, gray-haired witch living in a cottage, like the village witch. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm going to be when I'm 58, going through my second Saturn return. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I experienced, this spiritual awakening. So that's my experience, and I've covered, what it means for you if you're going through your Saturn return now, what you could expect. The main thing to remember is, it's a really challenging time. Saturn returns are challenging because Saturn is all about challenge, and you've got this like double whammy of challenges happening when you go through this Saturn return in your life. So if that's you, if you're 28 to 30 right now and things are feeling really hard and you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, just keep going with whatever your soul is calling you to do. And even if you're not seeing the results or the rewards from it now, just keep going, because you're setting yourself up for the future. The work that you're doing now is really going to help you in the future. So keep at it, keep being consistent and self-disciplined with what you're doing. Listen to those whispers of your soul and your intuition to guide you, and it will all work out in the end. So what next? If you need some help navigating this challenging energy of your Saturn return, whether you're going through your first or maybe second or even third Saturn return, if you're listening right now, I don't know how many 87-year-olds listen to my podcast, but hello if you do. And if you're 87, hats off to you. But if you are navigating this Saturn return right now and you really do feel stuck, I'm here to help you. You can book in a reading with me. The link to book in is in the show notes below. In a reading, I will guide you through exactly what's going on for you. I'll look at your astrology chart to help you understand exactly what's going on, because it may not just be Saturn, your Saturn return that's happening. You may have other planets that are doing other things on your chart as well. So that can be really helpful to understand the bigger picture of the energies that are affecting your life right now. So if that's you, I really encourage you to reach out and book a time to have an astrology reading with me, because that seriously, if I had done that when I was 29, it would have helped me so much. I didn't have an astrology reading till I was probably like 31. And that really changed my life. So I really wish that I had have done that when I was 29, because it would have given me so much more clarity on what it is I'm here to do and what I was going through at the time. So I hope that really helps you. If you're going through your Saturn return, please know that you're not alone and I'm here to help you. Well, I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Herbal Moon Goddess podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe from wherever it is that you're listening from today. Okay, bye for now.